Honde Onde Mtsan. This is Thongya, a podcast by the District 7 Legislative Office. For the month of June, we are focusing on our Kiowa Gourd Clan, Kiowa Taimpe ceremonies, Taimpe Go, unafraid of death. Our society is an old, ancient warrior society that we still have functional within our tribe, and proud of that. So I'd like to share with y'all the origin story as I was told, that there was a warrior who was lost from his people, the Kiowa people, and he was getting ready to die. And he was sitting on the side of a hill facing the east with the sun setting behind him. And as he was kind of at twilight came along, he was getting ready to make his journey. And lo and behold, he heard some singing along the creek bottom there and some trees. And it was a red wolf. And he was humming this tune. Yo, 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 ha, ya, ha, ya, 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 hey, hey, ya, yo, hey, hey, ya, hey, ya, hey, hey, yo, ha, ya, ha, hey, yo, 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 ha, hey, yo, ha, hey, yo, hey, hey, ya hey yo hey ya hey ha hey hey yo ha ya ha hey yo yo ya hey ya ha hey yo ha hey ho hey yo hey whoop 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 whoop. That song, Kiowa Gourd dog, yeah, the red wolf. He brought that song and that dance to our people. The gourd dance is a Kiowa man's dance. Koiki gungiga, oh boy, da. We need to take care of it because it's something that is ours. Those songs have Kiowa words in them. They're ours, and we need to be proud of that. But the Creator made us goigu, made us who we are. And that dance came through that red wolf, a creation from Dawkey. He gave us those songs that dance through that wolf. And we still have that society today. Even though we don't have the sun dance anymore, we have Taimpe God this time of year. And so we want to just join together with our societies here in celebration. I'll be hosting an outreach camp at the Kiowa Gourd Clan ceremony. And if you want to come by and visit me and just talk, grab some water, grab some coffee, or something cool to drink, we'll be there at my camp. So I extend that invitation to everybody. Just wanted to share that little origin story today where we got that dance from. And, maybe you might come and visit, the Carnegie one of these days and attend the Gourd Clan celebration and know a little bit about where that dance came from. Aho de onde. Well, welcome back to our podcast and our discussion this week. We're here to introduce our guest, Mr. Tim Tsoodle, the president of the Kiowa Gourd Clan. Thank you. We appreciate it, Thaw, for being with us on this podcast. This podcast is for all our District 7 citizens, our citizens who don't live in the jurisdiction. It's a wonderful time of year. We're all getting ready to have our annual Gourd Clan celebration, and we wanted to invite our special guest here to give us a little bit about the history, its revival of the Gourd Clan, the organization itself, who are the members, and then a little bit about the upcoming celebration. And thankful Mr. Tim Tsoodle could join us today. Dr. Brett, do you have any opening comments before we let Tim introduce himself?
I most certainly do. I think this is very, very important to our people when it comes to the ceremonies of our tribe. They're well known by a lot of people, but some of our people who are living outside and who have lived outside the service area or traditional area are not that familiar. And this is an episode that we hope to bring to light with a lot of our listeners right now. It's the cultural aspect. the cultural components of Kiowa people, the tribe itself. So I think this is a very appropriate theme or topic to discuss right now. I got some good questions for Tim, and I want to welcome him to the session right now and let him know the door's always open to come back and visit with us again. And I want Warren to use his MC voice right now when it comes to introducing. Go ahead, give us an introduction.
Hey, good job.
There you go. Let's go on now. Thank you very much, Warren.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Tsoodle. We thank you for joining us today. We just kind of want to dive right into it, go into the history and tell us a little bit about your role as the president of the Kiowa Gourd Clan. So I'll hand the mic over to you.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here, especially sit with you gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm honored to be here with Dr. Bread and a television star of your magnitude, Mr. Queton.
Oh.
But I appreciate this opportunity to talk. The Kiowa Gourd Clan is one of the largest tribal traditional organizations in the state of Oklahoma. We have over 300 members. We gather once a year on July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and we camp. Put up camp and we stay there, and we dance and fellowship and get together just like our grandparents used to do and how they wanted it. It's a big task. We have a crowd of, I've heard it estimated at up to 2,000, and most of them are Kiowa. It's always a good homecoming for everybody to come. Time to get together, see your relatives, eat together, pray together, sometimes even cry together, but mostly laugh. But it's just good to get together this time.
Oh, so could you tell us a little bit about the revival of the Kiowa Gourd Clan, its history, when it started, and why was it revived back then?
Well, the government stopped us, and I just went blank on the year. All Indians from taking part in any sort of ceremony or dance, it was outlawed. So they quit. And then in about 1957, the American Indian Exposition was going. And they had a night called team dance, or a tribal dance. And my father was Kiowa director, and he thought of the idea of doing the gourd dance. And he gathered men, elderly men that had braids, and he found some men that remembered those songs. And they dressed them in leggings, the shawl, shirts, and all they needed. And they danced 2 songs. And I was always told that it was quiet when they got through and the crowd started clapping, and there were people crying because they remembered it. So later, about a year or two later in Carnegie, they got together, the elders and the community, and they said, let's revive it. So they started getting it together. The men practiced the songs, and they were remembering a lot of the things that the old Thaimpi did. Mm-hmm. On the history of the Thaimpi is they're called skunkberry people because of their skunkberries red, and they said that the blankets that those men wore resembled that. But we're the only tribe. This is a Kiowa dance. I know this dance is spread all over the powwow country, and all tribes do it, and you ask them, and they'll come up with some cockamamie way they had it, or somebody will have given it to them. But the way the story was told to me by my grandmother, Margaret Hunt Tsoodle, was there was a Kiowa man, and he was lost. And he was wandering around, and he was almost about to give up. No food, no water, and he laid down at the base of a hill, and he heard singing and a funny noise. Well, he crawled to the top, and he looked, and there was a wolf dancing and singing, and he had a gourd. And that wolf saw him and brought that man down and fed him and revived him. And he taught him these songs and this dance, and he said, take this with you and do it the way I showed you, and it will take care of you. And he did, and that wolf took him back to his camp, to wherever his people were. And that was the origin story that we have. I know there's variations now, but that's how things change. Mm-hmm. But interestingly enough, in our hide calendars, in the Silverhorn calendar, and again I went blank, I want to say 1838, there's a pictograph where it says the winter the Thaimpi was organized. Mm-hmm. And the picture is of a dead tree and that gourd. And it's a real gourd like we have now with the can and the handle. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying 1838, it's been with us. But like I said, it's the only calendar that marks that event. So that's part of the history. And they went, and from there they revived it, and they met over there in the Big Bend of the Washita by Carnegie. Mm. And they had the first couple dances there. the men gathered, they camped. And from what I understand, it was a very, very nice thing. There were other dances before. It didn't die out. There were some at Zoltone, and then at, they'll say the Senkadoti place. I really don't know where that is. But there were a few dances there. I know that they had a big brush arbor at my great-grandfather, Henry Tsoodle's home place, and there were a few dances there. Oh, and they danced at Lone Bear, the old Lone Bear dance ground. Mm-hmm. But those were few and far between, mainly after the wars, when they kind of just had like a homecoming dance, and that was it. It was just all gourd dance.
Hey, Mr. Tsoodle, when it comes to the history, you help a great deal putting things into context as far as before the dancing and how the songs came about and how the gourd rattle and the red wolf, as I understood it to be. And I think it's very important that when we try to recruit, I'll use that term, into the Gourd Clan, that people know the contextual element, the background to it, the story. I've always encouraged our tribal government to bring that into the institutional aspect with the tribal government to teach all the youngsters that area as far as the history and the contextual history, so they understand what's going on with the dance itself and the etiquette, the protocol, those type of activities that go into the dance. So contextually done a good job. I think we need to do more of that with our cultural values and understanding. Talk about the contextual element itself. Now, there's this question I have for you. I want you to try to explain to me in terms of the involvement of the Gourd Clan. There's two separate groups right now, if that's the right word, separate, maybe not. Taipei and Gourd Clan. Can you tell us a little bit about the contextual development of those two concepts, or organizations, or whatever they refer to?
Sure. Actually, from my understanding, there's three right now, to be honest.
Uh-huh.
There's the Taipei of Oklahoma, and then I can't remember what the other one's called. But they both go by Taipei, which is our word for gourd dance. And there's the Kiowa Gourd Clan. From what I understand, there were some difference of opinions on protocols and some of the rules, and a group split off. Their thinking is a little bit more liberal. Like with the Kiowa Gourd Clan, it's strictly Kiowa. We have a few members that are non-Kiowa, but we look for a certain individual, certain man that will bring something and that will enhance and help our organization grow. I can't really speak for the other two organizations, but mainly they're a little bit more liberal in their thinking mm-hmm. and in how they conduct things. And I know one of the groups has non-Indian members, mm-hmm. and then the other one is a group broke off from them, and that's the group at Lawton. And they have their own little traditions that they do. But sure. We dance, two of us, we all three dance at the same time, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of July, which is sad. I always wish we could get together and just have one big dance where we're just all Kiowa and we're all together.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds great.
That would be wonderful. But I think hopefully maybe not my generation, maybe the next one will say, hey, we need to unite. We need to be one.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the organization or how the activities start? How is it organized to do your gourd dance ceremony at the gatherings and stuff? What are some of the sequences you have to follow, like opening song or blah blah blah? Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we do have a starting song, and we usually start at 2 p.m. And then we just gourd dance, and let me start from the beginning. We set up camp. We come in around the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, mm-hmm. and in the morning, we'll give out rations to all the campers. And usually at Gourd Clan, we have well over 200 camps. Mm-hmm. We give out rations, and then on the 3rd and 4th of July, the Polai, the Rabbit Society, will dance. And when they used to sun dance, that was their duty, to go and clean the arena. And that's what these little kids, the camp kids, the town, they'll all come and they'll clean the arena, and then they got their own dance. Mm-hmm. They'll dance, and then they'll get a treat. Like in my day, it used to be we'd get a piece of bubble gum or they used to have these little rolls, like Wonder Bread rolls, but now they're getting pizzas and lunches and toys.
Hamburgers.
And the families go all out. Then after that, about 11, we'll brush dance. And that's a very sacred part of this dance. And that when they used to Sundance, they'd bring in, that was the Taipi roll. They'd bring in the Sundance pole, and they'd dance it in. And they got songs for that. And that's what we do. We come in the arena, men in the front, and then the women in the drum. And it's a wonderful thing to see, to hear those songs. Because there's an order to these songs. I know there's people that sing and they say, oh, I know these songs, but you have to know the order and the sequence of how these songs go with the brush dance and with the gourd dance. And there's just few Kiowa men that can do that. I know there's a lot of singers that say they can, but you have to know the order of the songs. And that's what they do in the afternoon when we start. We break for lunch, and then we come at 2. We go to about 5. We'll bring a flag down, which we raise at sunup with a prayer and a song. We bring it down, and then we dance for about 30 minutes, and we break for supper. Then about 7, when it's cool, we'll have a processional. And that, too, goes back to when we used to Sundance, when the societies would parade, and all the people would parade around the camp. But the men come out, and we dance around the arena, and then the women follow. It's something to see. It's a very humbling experience, because usually we'll have well over 200 dancers. And that's just the men. That's not even counting how the women and the children. It's just a wonderful, uplifting sight. And then we might dance for a couple hours, then we'll break and we'll go into our Ohomo dance, which are our war dance. And we'll do that for a couple hours. And that's fairly the sequence of our dance and what we do there.
So, Mr. Tsoodle, I got a question for you. In terms of, like, you had mentioned the Sundance bringing us all together. What is, your father was instrumental in reviving the gourd dance, and I know he had some advisors that he worked with. What was what's your thoughts on what their role was within the Sundance circle? And we were under that Yapahegal, all those war societies, What was the Taipegal's role as part of that Yapahegal, that warrior lifestyle back then?
Each society, there were about 8 back then, they'd have one day to meet, do their business, take in new members, and they'd dance. And they'd meet just once a year. And they wouldn't dance after dark. Yeah. And the Taipi role was they were the police, tribal police. They go on the big hunt. They make sure nobody went early or shot more than they needed or took more, and they kept order in the camp. And interesting enough, when the camp would break up or they'd move, the Taipi would follow and they'd walk behind them because they were the rear guard. And they had a brother group, and it was the Koitsenka, the 10 bravest, those men that would stake themselves. That was the brother group to the Taipi, and they go together when they do the break camp, and they'd follow the camp to make sure that they weren't, some enemy would come up behind them. But that's part of their ceremonial duties.
So I know we're coming upon that time when, we have people that may be interested in returning, maybe coming home. A lot of our District 7 citizens live all over the country and in the world. There may be some coming back home, for this year's celebration. Could you talk to us a little bit about appropriate dress, maybe some of the etiquette involving those that may want to take part in the Taipegal ceremony this year?
If you go to any powwow, you'll see guys out there in T-shirts, ball caps, jeans, and they might have a red and blue blanket and a gourd, or even what my pet peeve is guys in straight dance outfits and war dance bustles with gourds. But that's powwow. It has no place at our dance. That's somehow it's done. You're supposed to dress your best. Dress slacks, dress shirt, tie, or you wear leggings, that black shawl, your roach or fur cap, and you have your gourd and your fan. Because that's how the Gourd Clan, from what I was told, was the elite organization. And there were just certain ones that could join. And when the people saw them dance, they would say, that's the best we have. Look at them. Look at them. The obey, they were good. Look. And that's part of the tradition that we uphold, that we go out there, we can wear long sleeves, we dress our best. You don't see jeans. You might see we wear our moccasins, we paint up. And even to the women, they dance on the side, because It's a man's dance, not a veteran's dance. You don't have to be a veteran to do it. And they're dancing, and the women dance on the side because the men are on the front to protect the women. And everybody dresses their best. And we have your camp. You open your camp up till you find your visitors. You feed them. You might give them something. Make sure they have something to drink and eat. And that's part of our way of being a Kiowa, that we always look out for our visitors and our guests. And that's why the camp, that's why the society gives rations so they can feed. Not just your family, but visitors. And you look for them. Because that's always a neat thing to see at supper time. There's nobody sitting at the arena because they're all at the camps. They've been invited. But we have a strict protocol. So you dress your best. There's a way to conduct yourself. You sit there. I know now you see people will dance. They'll jump up. Those men, they're out in the middle, and they don't sit down. We're supposed to sit down and then get up between each song, and you stay seated. We have a whip man. He's got a long buggy whip, and he goes around and he keeps order in that arena. And at the drum. He's in charge of that. I know there's 4 officers, and you might be somebody of note, but when we're in the arena and we're sitting, we're all the same. We're all the same, and that we're all brothers. And that's what makes this organization what it is.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt
It's
you
okay.
there. I get these questions that pop up, and I get a little preachy at times when they come in my mind. How is the Gourd Clan organized as far as hierarchy is concerned, if there is one? Headsman, president, can you kind of explain that order for us?
There's 4 officers or headsmen. There's the president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. These are lifetime commitments. I'm the president. The vice president is Dr. Phil DuPoint. The secretary is Gene Satoke. And the treasurer is Ernest Redbird Jr. We were picked by either our predecessor or by the members to fill these positions. And we do them until our death, or we feel like we can't do it anymore. And we're in charge. We do the decisions of when to meet and where to meet, and take care of any kind of problems in the camp, make sure everything's done, everybody's safe, everybody has a good time. We have a traditional protocol. We wait, we hear the first thunder of spring. We go, we have our ceremonies, that's when we gather. And then we have 3 benefits. And we raise our money for our dance. And we meet March, April, and May. And they're all gourd dance. And we have a head singer. That's all. There's no such thing as a head man dancer, head gourd dancer, or a head lady gourd dancer, or a head little boy gourd dancer. There's no such thing. You just have a singer and your MC, and that's how you start. But for the 4th, we do have a head staff, but they're for the night, for the war dance. And this year we've got a really good head staff. Our head gourd dance singer is Michael Topalm. Our head war dance singer is Eric Bohe. He's from California. Mike's from Carnegie. And then the head war dancer is Hubert Colity. He's from Anadarko. And the head woman war dancer or lady dancer for the evening is Cody Horse. And she's from Oklahoma City. We have afternoon MC is Cy Autone and Dr. DuPoint. And at night we have Pete Nacone and Tom Phillips. We're handling our evening MC duties. And that's all we have.
Where are you going to be located this year? My recollection takes me back down by the river down there at the old days. I understand we have generally a new area that we celebrate.
We used to camp at the lower park at the Carnegie, but we got too big. And we had the tribe finally fixed that place. It's a Kiowa Tribal Dance Ground at the complex on that hill. And it's pretty nice. I like it. It's big, huge area, and it's on a hill, so we get a breeze. So there's not any mosquitoes, which helps.
Yeah.
And they're still working on it. I give them credit, the tribe. They work with us. We still got a few things we need done, but like this year we're getting electricity to the outer camps, which is a big plus. It's just directly east of the new community center.
So you had mentioned you have 3 benefit powwows, or not powwows, 3 benefit dances to kind of help defray some of the cost of hosting this ceremony each and every year. And You know, how do your citizens, or say there's somebody that wants to help out the organization, how do they get in contact with you? Because I know it takes a lot of alhongia to have a big celebration like this, and we can always use support. And as we use this podcast, how can our tribal citizens support the Gourd Clan moving forward?
You know, the biggest support they could do is just come.
Okay.
Just come, and they feel like giving us some money. That's fine. People pledge, or they'll give us money, or they pledge a beef. It's how they feel, and that's how we go on. Before that, we just go and we get started, and we trust in our people, and we trust in the Creator that he'll pull us through. And so far, He has. We've always met our expenses, and it's a big task. It's a big daunting task, and the tribe does help us a little bit, which they've begun helping all the other groups and powwow groups and society groups, which I'm real grateful for. But like I said, it takes money. You know, we all know things cost. Things cost, and we give rations twice, on the 2nd and the 3rd.
Oh.
Like the first day, we'll give out meat and then staples and other groceries, and then the next day we'll just give out meat.
Oh.
To give us the dates and the times and the places again, if you don't. I think it's great that we repeat it 2 or 3 times for our listeners. I'm sure most of them probably are familiar with it, but give us the date, time, and place again.
July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th at Carnegie, Oklahoma. We really begin at sunup with flag raising. Then we have rabbits, and rations, and all that in the morning, and brush dance at 11. But our afternoon starts at 2. Excuse me. And our evening program begins around 7 o'clock when it cools down. And we'll go to about midnight, and if the mood's good, we might even 49.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Old days, good days at times. I'm very happy to hear that we still continue to participate in this. At one time in the history of government relations with tribes and federal government, they tried to, assimilate us a great deal by taking away our culture, taking away our language, our values, our customs, or even our history, rewriting our history and our government and order, etc. So we almost became totally victimized by that when it came to taking away our religious values demonstrated by our ceremonies. So there's some history there I think people need to be cognizant of, and to have it revitalized by some of the old folks. I'll leave a question for my part with you. How are y'all going to keep it revitalized? If everything's for life and the young people, you don't have people who are apprentices and hits clanmen or et cetera. Do y'all have a thought or a vision of that for the continuation of the Gourd Clan?
Well, really that's up to the members. That's their participation and their support. Just like this Saturday, we call it cleanup day, and we put up the dance arbor, and the men do that, the members, and those young men or men that want to be considered for initiation in the organization. They come, and they got to dig the holes, and they build that arbor, and they put it up, and that's one of the neatest things. We have over 100 men show up, and we'll be done by noon, and of course we have a nice meal afterwards, and it's hot. And it's a lot of work, but these guys do it. And we'll have their sons and grandsons all there, and they'll come and they'll help. It's something to see. And it happens when the dance is over. We'll have a few that come and they'll take the arbor down, they'll pack it up on the trailers, and they'll take it to where we store it.
Oh.
We have a huge camp. And I'm always amazed that when it's over, we're supposed to make it look like we're not there. And that's how it looks.
Yeah.
Trash is gone. They pick up, they'll pick up trash and everything, and it's that evening it'll look like you wouldn't even know we were there except for the impressions of our camps, the outlines, and that's always a neat thing for me to just sit there and look.
A lot of times I consider his graduation from being a fancy war dancer. Hey, it's not as rigorous a dance as your war dancing or anything. I liked about it the most, other than knowing the history and the purpose behind it, was the spirit that evolved over listening to the singing and the drum, and how you could get caught up into it as far as your activities concerned, and it just left you with a great feeling. And I don't know of too many ceremonies that don't leave you with a great feeling among our tribal people. So I encourage people to participate, to go. More importantly, in my opinion, I encourage the tribal government to institutionalize some things that you were saying by developing some type of activity for our young people to participate in, like the development that day you talk about building the arbors, etc. more advertisement, publicity if it's appropriate, if it's respectful, I think. We need to get more and make sure we can persevere and preserve, and more importantly, perpetuate Kiowa Gourd Clan. So I want to thank you very much for being with us today. It's been a pleasure to meet you and your family, etc. It's always good to see you. Come visit with us at time. You're welcome back anytime.
And I have a comment to kind of follow up with. As a Kiowa member, I'm always proud of our Taimpega, or even our Tokonga, Ohoma, Polai, our societies, because one of the few tribes that we still have that Yapahega, or that warrior lifestyle intact and functional, even though it's kind of evolved over time. But I think I mimic what you just said, is all those societies, they have their traditions and their songs, and mainly our Kiowa people are musical people. You hear it in our songs, and without that drum, we couldn't dance and participate in this. And powerful, when you get out there and that spirit will hit you, or hit all the dancers will just kind of be almost levitating, but in one movement, one motion, and moving together. It's really a tremendous experience. And there's something about our Kiowa songs that I think other tribes, they just they can't quite sing them like we can back at home and in Carnegie. When our Taimpega happens, that it's because it's our dance. We got it from that story that my dad was just talking about. That Red Wolf gave this dance to our people, and it's up to us to take care of it. And so, I'm going to try to do my best to support, in whatever way I can, capacity I can in the future. But I appreciate Tim for being with us today, sharing a little bit of the history, knowledge, your experience as the president. And we wish you all the best in this year's ceremony. And any closing comments before we close out this portion of the podcast?
I just hope everybody that can will come and enjoy the days with us. If you're Kiowa, you're more than welcome. We do allow visitors, but just our members, and then a few can come dance. Just come, and you have your children. They need to see this.
Yeah.
They need to see this, and your grandchildren, so that they can know it. Because like you said, we're not going to be here forever. And that's part of the reason for this, is they can see how it should be done, how they should conduct themselves, and what they should do, how they should dress. And this is the time to do it. I'm just welcoming everybody to come out.
Sure.
Come out and be with us.
All right. Well, we will... Thanks a lot for joining in on the cultural programming of the podcast here. And we're going to go take a short break, and we'll be back. So, Dr. Brad, one of my bills as a District 7 legislature was called the Sponsorship Act of 2023, which basically it lines out how the tribe supports our traditional societies, i.e., the Kiowa Gourd Clan, Taimpei Society of Oklahoma, Kiowa Taimpei Society, Ohoma Lodge, the Kiowa Black Leggings, Kiowa Hen Game and Crow Nation Visitation, and then we are going to support the Polai, the Rabbit Society, and then even I think there's been discussion about Kiowa Princess Sorority in the future, as a traditional organization of women that have served as our Kiowa princesses. And then the second category would be support of our churches.
Yeah.
Our different churches that are within our jurisdiction of our Kiowa Reservation. They must have been founded by members of the Kiowa Nation or citizens of the Kiowa Nation as part of their original charter. And, must be an active church right now in order to receive funding. It's up to $5,000 for funding for each church annually, with $750 set aside for Christmas programming. And then the third category was cultural organizations, veterans organizations, other organizations approaching the tribe for sponsorship and donations to their cause. The tribe helps with that. We have a line item under the executive branch where the chairman has full autonomy to kind of distribute those money pending an application from those organizations with a budget attached to kind of show what they're requesting and what they're asking the tribe to pay for. So I'm glad like organizations like the Kiowa Gourd Clan have a little bit of financial backing from the tribe to help support. Back in the old days, there were all these organizations were self-funded.
Sure.
Because the tribe didn't help in any way.
Yeah.
And I think there's a separation there, separation of culture and state, I guess, if you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
The tribe made sure that the government was functioning, and the tribal programs had enough funding. Now this current administration's ensuring, and legislators are ensuring that the tribe supports those traditional societies within our communities. It kind of leads me into our conversation. Is that a role that the tribe needs to continue in the future? I've seen it in the past where they didn't have any support. And, these organizations, but they made it, when the Kiowa Gourd Clan, for example, was dancing in Carnegie Park each and every annual. They had to have a lot of benefits. And the members of that organization had to contribute large sums of money to hold their annual dances. The same for the Black Leggings and the same for the Ohoma. I mean, they all receive something. But I get a little leery.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of discussion before to alleviate some of the anxiety as far as what is appropriate, relevant to what kind of government that you have. And when it comes time for, let's make a parallel here. When it comes to the state of Oklahoma and their sovereign status as a state, then they are responsible to some extent, and that's a good word to choose, for the education of their people.
Yeah.
I.e., thus the public schools, meaning that if you're a citizen of the state, you go to Oklahoma public schools and get the education that whatever the public schools give to you. So my attitude is with tribal government, that's also a responsibility they have as a sovereign nation to their people, is to educate them, provide an education for them, not necessarily along the lines of the public school curriculum, i.e., science and math, and but along the lines of their cultural basis to who they are as a tribe. It behooves the tribe, I think, to advocate for the culture of the tribe by teaching the culture as they see it, rather than having the other people teach it as they saw it and continue to see it. So I have the attitude that a lot of times that the tribe needs to start putting more of, how would I say this, responsibility as a tribal government by institutions that they have within their tribal structure. And if you want to say budgeted money for it, so be it. A lot of questions will be asked, where does the money come from? Well, obviously it comes from the gaming money more than anything, as far as that the tribe sponsors those areas, not from the federal government. But you can't do that with federal money, per se. So within the tribal structure of gaming, I think it's something that they could do to institutionalize a cultural component whereby just the organizations doing it is fine. But what is the tribe going to do specifically to educate its citizens about the culture of the tribe? In partnership with the organizations, that's fine to a certain extent.
Partnership with schools?
Yeah, that's strategy sessions that need to be held like that. How do we go about doing this? Well, I'm a very pragmatic person, I say, and I think we're at a time right now where we better start thinking like that as a tribal government to preserve our identities.
Yeah.
By teaching our parents about things like culture, because I would venture to say that a lot of our parents don't know that much about Kiowa culture. And a lot of folks probably learned a lot about the Gourd Clan today in terms of the history, the involvement, and the contextual elements. So I believe it's something the tribe could do as an institution within the component of education. They already have the language program, I understand that. They already have blah, blah, blah. When it comes to them getting out themselves and teaching about culture other than language, what else do they do? Do they bring in the 10 Tsoodles to teach about the Gourd Clan? Are they going to
Curriculum.
Yeah.
Who's going to build that curriculum?
Yeah.
I think you're talking about like a K through 12 program. It could be even an after-school program.
Yeah, well, we don't. Yeah, we don't have to use the
Yeah.
non-Indian terminology.
Yeah, correct. You
Yeah,
call what we want to call
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
But I'm thinking of a program like that
Yeah.
that they can kind of come to and learn how to sing.
Or we
learn
could
how
go to them in the community.
Correct. Yeah.
And there's a pilot concept in federal government where that can be done under preservation of culture. A language program is a good example of when it's going on. So I just think it's time to sit down and look at the next 10 years, decade, changes that are coming about in the national government politics that's taking place, and how sometimes it's a threat to our sovereignty.
I think it's important that the tribe protect that sovereignty, cultural sovereignty, educational sovereignty, and asserting itself into, you're right, Dr. Bredd, that a lot of our, students, young people are not being taught that cultural identity in the home.
In the home, right.
And so where are they going to learn it? If not in the home, then I guess you're going to have to depend upon the tribe to figure out a way to teach that, because I think you look at where we are, our tribe is so divided in so many ways. And it goes back to a conversation we had in terms of values, customs, not learning that what's important to us as Kiowa people. Now we continue to attack one another, i.e. social media. You see all these Kiowa pages, and all we do is attack each other.
Yeah.
And that's not a part of our values.
Well, I could take it a little further.
Yeah.
I won't go into it with this discussion, but it's also based on governance
Yeah.
and the governmental principles, one being the Constitution of the tribe. If it perpetuates the culture of people, fine. And if it doesn't, what difference is it than the other times we've had as Kiowa people back in the history with federal government assimilation itself? So I agree. I mean, it's a hard discussion, and there are a lot of people who may not agree, but they at least have the privilege of discussing it with people, especially District 7 people. They're not the people who are located in the hub area of Carnegie and Anadarko. A lot of our District 7 people have been away from the tribal culture, other than coming back for Gourd Clan or for other
Blackleggins.
Yeah, but when it comes to every day, you're probably more exposed to it, not as much as 50 years ago, living in Carnegie, Anadarko, where it's at. So I think that times we need to be provided that kind of services as Kiowa people outside of the service area, have an opportunity to experience it more, and asking or requesting the tribe to get more actively engaged in the teaching of culture to the Kiowa people, not expecting Native American studies at OU or Native American studies at University of Arizona or wherever to do that for us. It's something we can do. A lot of discussion right now with a few people about charter school, for example. Not enough discussion yet, in my opinion. We need to involve more people in that discussion, get a broader perspective in order to justify moving that way if that's the way we're going. And then some of the questions I ask, what is the charter school going to do? What's the purpose of the charter school if you want to use that as a vehicle? I'm not against it. I just like to have things discussed and somewhat talked out, analyzed somewhat, and then make a good decision. So I would think that the charter school concept lends itself to culture more than it does cognitive development of children, academically speaking. I don't know. I like to hear the response from the people who are endorsing that.
We'd like to have more dialogue on it
Definitely.
and get some input on. I think it goes back to your strategic planning. I think you need to have a lot of analysis when you start out and kind of come up with a plan and have people give you feedback on that plan.
Vote on it.
Vote on it, you perhaps, but God, we're not doing that right now. I think it's just it's almost a foolhardy idea that we're going with, and planning takes a lot of work, and a strategic plan, in my mind, needs to have an end state, and you need to have some sort of metrics to measure how you're going to get to that end state, and I don't see that yet. You throw out an idea like charter school, That needs to be explained to the people.
Yeah,
What do you mean charter school? What's
well-
going to be taught in that school?
We even been through an era of tribal controlled colleges, and there are many of them, and they've done a great job. And we tried it here in Oklahoma 3 or 4 times, and I don't know if our environment, politically, culturally, spiritually, whatever, lends itself to a tribal college. In name only, I say that, but when it comes to what the purpose is, I can see the same concept with the tribal.
Charter school.
Yeah. If we want to focus on the culture aspect, and I think it's something we can do, but we can talk it out. But with the way the state supports charter schools, you cannot discriminate on race.
Yeah.
In other words, you can't be for Kiowas only, like some of the times we've heard people say that, thinking that. It's not
Yeah.
like that. If you're going to get funded,
Yeah.
but if the tribe puts their own money into it,
They can do whatever they
then
want to.
definitely. So,
And the tribe gets, I think, $6 million from the casino operations to fund their tribally funded budget. We'd like to see that more funding taken from our casino gets applied to the tribal operation. An opportunity to do that. So if we establish our own charter school, fully funded by the tribe, then
Yeah.
the state doesn't have any say on what we teach in that charter school.
I think it would be the first in Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken. The Cherokee Nation has their charter school, but it's funded by the state.
I think that's part of the strategy, but then it goes to what about these students that are not attending that charter school because they don't live in Carnegie or Anadarko? How are you gonna
That's my point.
teach them? And District 7 citizens are in that boat. How are we going to reach out to them and do more online programming, more online curriculum for those people who are citizens of the tribe just because they might be only a quarter Kiowa, they're still citizens.
Yes.
How do we help them learn those values? And
Well, this podcast is a good example of how
Yeah.
to. It's long term to affect it, but I would say one of the things we need to talk about in that regard is to put more responsibility in the hands of the parents.
Yeah.
And the parents themselves are people that
Gotta-
need to. They
gotta
want
commit to
teach
teaching
it.
them.
Got have to. And then if they don't know, and we don't know if they don't know, because we haven't done that much research in it to lay the foundation for development, like we're talking. It goes back a lot of times, in my own personal opinion, to laws, to resolutions by our legislators. That's what we have legislators for, to represent the people's attitudes and their wishes and desires. Not that they all come to fruition, but at least it gives us some groundwork where we can create some things that will benefit our children as we go on. So District 7 people, I feel like it's good we can talk about the culture in our podcast and in our newsletter. It's difficult, though, to get you to come, from Seattle, Washington, or Phoenix, Arizona, or even Dallas, Texas, more than once or twice a year back home. So I like the idea that we're trying to do that with technology right now, but we need to get a little bit more active as a tribe in servicing these District 7 people as far as education is concerned.
Yeah.
And if they can't go to this, quote, charter school concept, well, we can take it to them a lot of times.
Yeah. Technology can do that now. And I think we have to think outside the box.
Definitely.
We need a much more robust technology infrastructure. The tribe doesn't have that right now. I'll be the first to say that. I mean, we can barely operate the website and the email that we
Definitely.
have. So we have to build that capacity building to take on that work and use technology to our advantage. There's programs out there, but we're way behind. We have to invest in that and invest in programs like, charter school or curriculum development for online schooling so people can learn what it is to be a Kiowa identity-wise.
Much more difficult task for you and District 7 because of the diversity and how spread out we are all over this country, as you mentioned in our podcast, this world, compared to Carnegie, Oklahoma, and Anadarko, who are concentrated in the tribal service area. But we do need to have a means of providing more services, however, to District 7. Education is just one of them. And culture is part of their education, in my opinion. So that's where I'm coming from as far as the discussion is concerned. Not to say I'm adamant, and my tone suggests I am, but I'm very open to discussion if asked.
I think you're That's a good key point. That's what this podcast is about: discussion and sharing ideas. Dialogue is healthy, in my mind.
Yeah.
Dissent is healthy too, if done appropriately.
That's relevant to how you define it. That's a lot relevant to your culture and how you were raised too.
Sure.
So we are having some issues at times with cultural interpretation, value classification, value clarification, etc. And it's something I think we need to, I would think a commission to examine, to research, to whatever, is a good point for beginning of some of the how-tos to address it in the next decade.
What are our values?
Yes. Consistently.
Consistently.
Yeah, among our Kiowa people.
And what values do we want to be included in that curriculum? Yeah. It needs to be planned. I think you're right. A commission of elders, educators, people that have that knowledge base to kind of help guide us through here. Instead of just coming up with a plan, cold plan to say this is what we're going to do and it's going to work.
Well,
I agree with you, Doctor, but there has to be some analysis and some sort of show me how this is going to work. And does your data support that? And I'm not seeing that at this current time.
Well, I encourage our District 7 people to call in, write in, step in, whatever the district offices and
in Norman and Tulsa.
Yeah, and give us your perspective. And that's far-fetched because of how diverse we are.
Yeah.
All over this country. And even in Tulsa and Oklahoma City there.
We have a phone, we have an email, we have a website. There's all types of ways people can contact us, call us. We respond. We respond to phone calls and emails. I get them daily. And, I think our staff is very good about alerting me, hey, we have an issue with a citizen. We need your help on what we need to do with this information. So I'm thankful for the work that we're doing. I know we have a lot of work to do to expanding those services out to District 7, but we've got to have an administration that is open to those ideas.
Speaking of, I would hope someday we can get our tribal chairman to come on our podcast and talk with us, visit with us.
We do need to get him on here so we can specifically ask this question about services to our District 7 citizens, and to include the executive director. How do we break down those barriers? Because I think a lot of times it's just a simple question of asking the funding agency, how do we get rid of service component areas for our different 638 programs? Or expanding that to, say, the state of Oklahoma or the Northern Hemisphere.
Seriously.
What is because our people live all over. How do we best serve them? Well, the service area component actually restricts people from accessing those services.
Definitely.
We have to break down that barrier.
It's inhibiting as its growth as a nation itself. And there are questions that need to be asked and discussed, but the elected officials, like you legislators, I think at times y'all need to get, and you probably do. I mean, I'm not underestimating you. I know you, how you like to think, and you'll get together and talk like you and I are talking right now.
Sure.
You got a citizen here, District 7, got a legislator, and we have means of a podcast right now.
Yeah.
So we could expand that somewhat with what we have in principle. That would do a lot for our communication with all our people. So as it is, District 7, I think have set some good examples for the tribal government as a whole, as far as how to do some service
simple communication.
Definitely. So I was asking Tara here if the other districts may have followed your lead, y'all's lead in establishing a podcast for their district, not to triplicate, duplicate, quadruplicate services, but how do you get the information communication line open more so? Newsletter, podcast, social networks, and I don't know how many social networks we're communicating with, TikTok, Facebook, and sometimes I wonder if that
YouTube,
even helps any, per se.
Yeah. Well, people communicate in different ways. There are a lot of elders that feel like Facebook is the way to communicate. I disagree because, God, it's so hostile. It's a hostile social media environment. Especially as a Kiowa citizen, it kind of hurts my heart a little bit about how mean we can be to each other on social media.
That's why I don't use it.
So then there's a lot of people that don't use social media, just for that fact.
Yeah, just like I said, it's why I
Yeah,
don't use
yeah,
it.
you don't get on there, Dr. Red, because you don't want to see
I don't want to hear it either.
all the negative comments and stuff that people spew out there. And some of them may not be tribal citizens, just on there
Yeah.
to cause hate and discontent. And
And
that's
hobbyists.
not what I'm about. Yeah, hobbyists. Yeah,
But those are some
good
points,
discussion. Though,
comments
Dr.
that I would encourage our tribal elected leaders and our tribal officials to hear and listen. They say, well, we've heard that all. No, you haven't. You haven't talked to every Kiowa that's in this country, or probably for that matter in this state, but you've talked to a lot of them around Kearney, Anadarko, Hobart, Mountain View, all those tribal service areas. But outside of that, it's hard to get out. You don't have a budget to travel,
Sure.
to across the country, especially for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to get back and forth just to Carnegie,
Yeah.
much less getting out to Albuquerque and Los Angeles and Seattle and Dallas and Wichita, et cetera,
Brings up a good point, and I want to make this introduction on this podcast here. We're going to have a camp for, I'm putting up a camp at the Kiowa Gourd Clan ceremony. If we have any District 7 citizens that might listen to this podcast, come on by, get a cup of water or a bottle of water or whatever food I have on my table. I'll be glad to share it with you. And we're going to put up a camp, and I don't know what part I'll mark off yet, but look for me or come and find me if I represent you as your legislator. Ask me, and I'll gladly invite you to my camp. I'm not going to dance. I'm just going to be at my camp. So if anybody wants to come by, have coffee, water, maybe a cold pop or a piece of fruit, just come on by. Come on and talk to me. I would want to extend that invitation out in this podcast.
Well, it's a great start, as I was saying, to mobilizing this concept even and taking the podcast out there and broadcasting from
Carnegie.
That's the way it happened with the old people, St. Cadota, and some of them at the fair, Indian Fair. Take it out, and they would be broadcasting radio, though.
Yeah.
And I remember walking by, and they would be talking and singing and telling corny jokes. I kind of refrained from that, but I'll tell you some later in life as we go along. But good idea, Warren. That's exactly what I think would make people feel good to know that we're trying something here. So I encourage that, and I'll try to stop by myself one day if it's not too hot for us. At times to. Might stay overnight, but
hey,
it's always good to listen to talk with y'all because you have an open mind and an open ear.
Yeah.
And I know your ability to do things are limited because of the budgetary and also the physical, surroundings, et cetera, and staff. You need more staff at times to handle District 7, and however we can endorse that politically, culturally, et cetera. I try to do that as much as I can because I know it's for the betterment of all Kiowa people.
This week in the Kiowa Legislature, we are meeting on Thursday, that's on June the 13th, to go over our Gaming Commission ordinance. Members at the table will be the commissioners of the Kiowa Gaming Commission, as well as members of the Kiowa Legislature, the Kiowa Casino Operating Authority, and members of the executive branch to go through that. That hasn't been submitted to the National Indian Gaming Commission yet, but that is the next step, is to send them a product that they are comfortable with that will be compliant with the National Indian Gaming Commissioning standards. That's the first order of business this week. We're also almost ready to vote on our Commissioning Standards Act, which is the minimum Commissioning Standards Act for all boards and commissions that are appointed by the chairman. This will come up with some parameters, some procedures for how commissions should operate, and if a commissioner needs to be removed, there's a process for that. Right now, currently, our legislature wants to create a hearing process that if a commissioner is accused of, malfeasance, breaking a law of some kind, that we have a process in place to have him go through due process, meaning a hearing is called and the legislature is able to ask questions, and the person in question is able to defend themselves, ask questions, bring evidence that supports, his defense, and then the legislature will make a decision, a vote on whether they want to recommend removal of a person from a commission or board, and that will go to the chairman for him to action. Currently, the chairman wants to remove all the people that he sees fit. He wants that power, to retain that power. We're working through that in this law. Hopefully that'll get finalized and then voted on this month. We also currently have the Audit Authorization Acceptance and Responsibility Act, which I'm sponsoring. This will focus on setting up some parameters, just like the legislature. We want to dig in and understand the current status of tribal programs, government departments. We need to be given details and facts about how each department's doing financially. Who are they serving? And right now, we don't have the ability to require or request an audit or even an inquiry into documents, so we can kind of understand how these programs are doing, what work are they doing. We hope that this Audit Authorization Act will help give some direction to the executive branch on how audits are handled within the tribe itself. So we've got a couple other things that were read into record this month, authorizing the Bank of Oklahoma bank accounts, which is being sponsored by Mike Primus, as well as authorization of sovereign bank accounts, powers granted and limitations, also sponsored by Mike Primus. We're still working through insurance for the tribal employees. There has been an amendment on the table now for quite a long time in regards to the Employee Benefit Providers Act of 2024, which was sponsored by Anita. Currently, I think we're withdrawing that, and I'm going to focus on a new law that focuses on how to reinitiate our conversation about insurance for the future. So that's the legislative update. Let us know if you have any questions. You can email us at district7legislature@kiowatribe.org or visit us on our website on our legislative page. Deon Deaho for tuning in to this episode of Thongya, our District 7 podcast. The music was provided by Mr. Terry Tsotai. For more information on our legislative work, please visit our website, kiowatribe.org/district-7. Thank you all for tuning in. Hegoim oi don't I.